Hey, it's Jeremy. Can you punch up TU6? Or, yeah, backpack 6. Oh, that's 30. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Hey, it's Jeremy Keyroll and RX30. Press conference.
Okay, is everybody ready?
It's San Joaquin. You see a group of people standing there?
Did you get a notification from my YouTube?
It's a homicide. Justice for Shayne. Oh, okay. Perfect. All right. Thanks. All right, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Good morning, everyone. My name is James D. Simone, and with me is our legal team, Carmen Spader and Jenica Leonard, who litigated this case to a successful conclusion. And most importantly, on my right is the family of Shayne Sutherland. Karen Sutherland, his mom, Erica Bellotti, who is the mother of 2 of his children, and her sister. And over 3 years ago, we stood in this exact spot to announce the filing of a federal civil rights lawsuit against Stockton police officers John Afanasiev and Ronald Zalinardo in the city of Stockton. What happened on October 8th, 2020 that led us here? Well, these officers did not follow safe police practices, and as a result, Shayne Sutherland died. Now, we're announcing today that the city of Stockton and the family of Shayne Sutherland has agreed to resolve this lawsuit. It was a hard-fought legal battle, but the family will be compensated in the amount of $6 million, which will help the children of Shayne Sutherland and his mom, who suffered a horrible loss because no mom, and every mom, every family member loves their family members, but Karen Sutherland has been a tireless advocate for her son and her family ever since this tragedy, to bring to light how unnecessary this death was. And we have a message for law enforcement, not just here in the city of Stockton, but across the country. And this is a message, and it comes from a training bulletin from the U.S. Department of Justice that was issued in 1995, 30 years ago. And what this training bulletin says, and it is as true today as it was 30 years ago, that when you handcuff someone, when police handcuff someone, and they have them in the prone position, you need to turn them on their side, put them in the recovery position, and then sit them up as you calm them down. And that is a safe police practice. When we litigated this case, we asked these officers, have you been trained on this? And they hadn't been trained. in the proper manner. And instead of acting to preserve the life of Shayne Sutherland in October 2020, handcuffed him, they kept him face down in a prone position for a period of over 8 minutes. A position which is well known in 2020. Just remember, this is 5 months after the death of George Floyd, when we had all watched a man die on television or on our tablets. It was well known that if you kept pressure on someone and did not allow them to breathe, that they could die. Shayne was turning colors. Shayne was begging for his life. Shayne was lapsing in and out of consciousness. And these officers kept him prone, using batons, using body weights, using their legs to keep him pressed down on the ground as he literally begged for his life until he said, "I'm dead." And he died shortly thereafter. An independent autopsy by the esteemed Bennett Amali, one of the foremost doctors in the United States of America when it comes to diagnosing the cause of death, examined the body, examined all the evidence, and concluded this was a result of positional restraint, positional asphyxiation. And that is the reason why the city of Stockton resolved this case for $6 million. A significant sum where, while they always say we don't admit guilt, it shows that there's accountability. It shows that they know that they acted wrongly in causing the death of Shayne Sutherland. Now that 1995 bulletin had the NYPD, New York Police Department, with me, Carmen Sabater, as a former NYPD police officer who's now a civil rights lawyer, and it said, as soon as the subject is handcuffed, get him off his stomach, turn him on his side, or place him in a seated position. The city of Stockton doesn't have that in their policies. They don't tell the officers that. They don't have guidelines. But we were hopeful. We were working with their attorneys. And as time went by, they assured us change is coming. We're changing our policies. Things are getting better. And in March 11th, 2024, the city of Stockton indeed adopted new use of force policies. I'm sad to tell you that those policies are woefully inadequate. First of all, how do they start out? They say that terms such as positional asphyxia, restraint asphyxia, and what's called excited delirium continue to remain the subject of debate. That's false. Restraint asphyxia, positional asphyxia is based on medicine. It's based on science. It's based on the struggle when someone's being pressed down, face down, handcuffed with their hands behind their back. They're going to struggle to breathe. Police officers mistake movement as someone's trying to breathe as resistance, so they press down harder as they did in Shayne's case. This is exactly what happened to Shayne Sutherland. Excited delirium has been declared by the legislator of the state of California to be a myth, and that medical examiners can no longer use this as a cause of death. So policies that were adopted just 1 month ago by the city of Stockton failed to properly inform their officers about medical science and what they need to do to save life. The policy goes on to say that when you restrain someone in this manner, you're not authorized to use any restraint which might unreasonably impair an individual's breathing. Well, that's common sense, and that makes sense. But there's no guidelines on what actually restricts a person's breathing. There's no guidelines that say when you handcuff someone, put him on his side, sit him up. That's the guidance that these police officers need. So we are hopeful of bringing this press conference not only to talk about the life of Shayne Sutherland and how senselessly this was taken away, the common sense police tactics could have saved his life, but we want this to be a warning sign and a cry to law enforcement to change your policies, save lives. Recently, an article came out that in the last 5 years, 22 people have died in the state of California from positional asphyxiation. That's 22 too many. And it's time to put a stop to it. But the only way we're going to put a stop to it is if there's changes. Now, Shayne Sutherland was never a threat to these officers. committed no crime. He never threatened anyone with a bottle inside of that AM/PM has been reported. We have the surveillance video that's taken from the inside of that AM/PM and have seen Shayne's movements. He was never threatening anyone there. He had called 911 and asked for a taxi. Well, that's your first clue that this person needs help. Not excessive force, not to be taunted. When we call on the city of Stockton and law enforcement across the country to train your officers on positional asphyxiation, train them on the science, and train them that when you have someone handcuffed, you don't keep them face down, pressed on the ground, and restrict their airways and cause their death. Get them up, they're handcuffed. Where are they gonna go? Positional asphyxiation is medically proven, it's based on science. So we say to the city of Stockton, you have work to do if you want to preserve the life of the people that you come into contact with. Otherwise, I'm concerned that a year from now, 2 years from now, I'm going to be back up here with my colleagues with another impacted family who lost a loved one. And we want that not to happen. Karen Sutherland wants that not to happen. That's why she's been an advocate on behalf of her son. Now, I do want to say that the city of Stockton has done at least one good thing. They have put out new policies where they're partnering with medical centers, where they will, in certain instances, call upon mental health professionals to come out when someone is having a mental health crisis. And that's a good thing, and we hope that that will save lives. But in reading those policies, we were concerned. Why? Because it says officers will obtain verbal consent from the individual prior to calling the community medical centers. How practical is that? If someone's having a mental health crisis, are they really going to be in a position to give verbal consent? So we think that the medical health professionals should be called at the first sign of someone having a mental health crisis and not to wait until they have verbal consent. But hopefully this partnership will save lives, because that's what we're about. I mean, as civil rights lawyers, yes, we come in when the most horrible thing has happened. But in my 30-plus year career as a civil rights lawyer, we have always striven, and why it was very important for us when the city of Stockton says we've made changes which will help people. And that was an important motivation in settling this case. The Sutherland family has suffered a loss. They suffered the loss of a father, a son, a brother. Shayne was a football coach. He's remembered by the Pee Wee football teams. They have his war cry. We have bracelets on about Shayne's war cry that he would have before football games to get those kids motivated. He was loved by those children. It's not only the Sutherland family that suffered a loss, it's the entire community that has suffered a loss. And our hope is that through this knowledge, through this settlement, $6 million, that law enforcement here in the city of Stockton, that law enforcement throughout the country will take note and do better and follow what should be their first guide. When they are trained under post lesson number 1 is preservation of life. That's not only preserving the lives of those law enforcement officers, that's preserving the lives of the member of the public that they encounter. And that's what we are asking them to do. Just as the United States Department of Justice informed them how they should do it 30 years ago. We'd like to think that things will get better in 30 years. It seems like they haven't, but we're here to make a difference. And I want to introduce Karen Sutherland, who will now say a few words about Shayne and about what this settlement means to her family. Thank you very much.
This settlement by the city of Stockton in no way will ever bring my son back. I can only hope that with this, that some major changes will be made and implemented within the city of Stockton and their police department, and that they will start holding their officers accountable. Shayne didn't deserve this. Shayne was no threat. Shayne was complying with them. He simply stood up and turned around right into the officers before they slammed him to the ground. loss that my family has suffered is absolutely devastating. I can't even describe it. As a mother, it's like being punched in the gut every single day, every single minute of every single day. This is something that a parent should never have to go through. A parent should never have to bury their child, especially at the hands of law enforcement. They're hired to protect and serve, and that day they failed my son, they failed his family. His children are now 8 and 7. His son wears a keychain with Shayne's picture on it on his backpack every day to school. His daughter asks, why did my dad die? He wasn't old. She doesn't understand. They shouldn't have to grow up like this. They shouldn't have to grow up without a father. He was a good father. He was a great provider. He provided not only for his girlfriend and her 3 children, but also their 2 children. He was very actively involved with his children's lives and his stepchildren. As Jim said, he was a youth football coach, and the team still honors him by placing a banner with his picture at every home game. And the kids still do his chant before every game that they have. This is 3.5 years later, they still honor him. They still speak about him. Shayne's siblings have also suffered a great loss. Shayne will never get to meet his new nephew and his new nephew that's on the way. I just pray that with this, the city of Stockton and the police department take this serious, so that no other family has to go through this again. Not only just Stockton, but this entire country. They need to listen. They need to have compassion. They need to treat people that they come across as one of their own family members, instead of being judgmental and using excessive force. So I just pray that with this settlement, that some major changes are done, and that officers that do go outside of that, the excessive force, that they're held accountable.
So, if there's any questions, we'll answer them if we can. I think we've given a lot of information. So, we thank everyone for coming.
I do have a question. So, the procedure that's in place according to the paper that you held up before, that you're aware of, is there any other law enforcement agency in the state of California that's abiding by those rules?
By the Department of Justice rules? Well, the city of Los Angeles, the LAPD, does have more robust policies to train their officers on positional asphyxiation. Not that they're always followed. I have a case going to trial in Maine that's eerily similar to this case where a family's son and father was killed. But they do have policies which do instruct officers that when you have someone handcuffed, that as soon as possible you should put them in the recovery position. So yes, there are. But these policies that were adopted by the city of Stockton are put out by a group called Lexipol. And Lexipol is a foundation that was formed by defense lawyers who represent the police. And so what they've done, frankly, is they put together policies which are vague, which protect the police, and which will shield the police from accountability. So there are a number of different smaller jurisdictions throughout the state of California who have adopted those Lexipol policies. And we're here to point that out because if they have those policies and they follow those policies and don't act to save lives, they could be held liable under federal civil rights law for having an unconstitutional policy and practice that causes the death of someone. So this is a warning sign, and we're letting them know.
So when this incident happened, to your knowledge, the City of Stockton Police Department was following those guidelines, the ones that you showed? Or which ones were they following?
They weren't in place. I mean, remarkably, when we looked at the training policies of the City of Stockton, which of course, in the Stockton Police Department, which of course we get in discovery, They only addressed it when the position was asphyxiation, when you had a situation where they put a restraint wrap around someone's legs. So, but there's going to be situations where you don't have that restraint wrap handy, and the laws of science and the laws of medicine still apply in terms of positional asphyxiation, that you should be putting that person on the side, especially with someone like Shayne Sutherland, who never threatened his officers. He may have momentarily stood up and he ran into their arms and immediately said, sorry, but he said he wasn't going to. He was begging for his life. And those officers used significant force in hitting his head to the ground. They started bleeding that day. It's pretty brutal what they did. And then you have that reaction. But even then, he's handcuffed and he's no threat. He's just gasping and struggling to breathe, and they're telling him relax as they're pressing him into the ground. Officers should be better trained. They should be able to better communicate. There's 2 officers. They have him handcuffed. Treat him immediately. Talk to him. Reassure him. Put him on his side. Say, we're getting medical attention for you. That would have saved Shayne's life. Thank you for coming today. Yep. Thank you very much.
I hope you guys could hear that. I'm in a chair today, so I couldn't get any closer. I hope you guys could hear that. I'm gonna end this. I'll come back after. I'll do another live stream. I have a new phone. I hope you guys could hear. Thank you guys for being here. Let's go. Fing, will you please email me, Fing? I want to talk to you. Loda has been canceled. Peace out, y'all.